Welcome to Messy Disciples. We're so glad that you're here. My name is Pastor Bob. This is Gio. And we're excited for you to be a part of the conversation. And that's what these are. These are just conversations that started because Zoom became a way of life. And we thought what we were talking about might be something that could help people along the way.
So in some of these other videos that we've got posted now, Pastor Bob, you've talked to us a lot about how to connect. And the first step is, we've talked a lot about getting right with God. And the first step is asking God for forgiveness and then forgiving ourselves, right? So, day to day, here we are, we're driving down the street. I got, my mind is wandering and I'm thinking about, how do I do this? How do I connect with God? How do I forgive myself after all these years? How do I learn to take this first step? It's so daunting. It's puts me in such a vulnerable position, and I'm uncomfortable when I'm in that position. So, how do you make it real, Pastor Bob, so that day to day, people like me and anybody else out there that's, questioning how to navigate this weird time, how do we connect with Jesus? How do we connect with God? Can you give us some things that kind of make it real, bring it into the real world for us, and give me some ideas day to day? How do I do this?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think there's a lot of wisdom in the way that the New Testament talks about what forgiveness is. And one of the ways that it talks about it is it uses a certain word for forgiveness. And that word is loaded with lots of meaning. Some of the meaning of the word that the New Testament uses for forgiveness is to set somebody free. It's as if they were a prisoner. But I think the really profound thing about forgiveness is that we realize that a lot of times we were the one who was a prisoner. And so to forgive means to set a prisoner free, even if that prisoner was yourself. And you kind of notice this when you're all hung up on something that went wrong. Either went wrong to you or something that you did to another person and it's still bothering you. You think about it all the time. It's like it's got you caged in. And that guilt and that fear and that shame and that anger becomes like a warden that holds you in that spot. And so to forgive means to seek God. It means to say, God, here's the situation. You just lay it out to him, whether it's something that happened to you and you're talking to God about how you feel about that, really practically. Like so you're talking to God in a really sincere and plain kind of way. You're not using a lot of churchianity.
I think we got a little bit of lag. I just wanted to ask you a question on that, though. So you're saying we're driving down the street. I should be having a conversation with God and in that moment almost like confessing, saying, hey, God, this is bothering me. The way that I did this was bothering me, or the way this turned out was bothering me. And it's funny real quick because you just said something really important that really grabbed me. You said forgiveness is another way of saying the ancient word for it is to be set free. And then you also said that sometimes then we are the prisoner. And it's interesting that you say that because there's just so many people right now that are feeling, this whole topic of being prisoners and this whole topic of being imprisoned and caged. Like it seems to be incredibly appropriate for right now. The fact that you're saying that to forgive is to be set free, and the argument that's out there, the general argument is, we aren't free. And now we're seeing it all over the place. We're seeing it in the way that the media is treating us, caging us in. Like you just said, we're caged. We feel caged. We feel like we're the prisoner. We're angry. We don't know why. What do we do? And you're saying, and this is so appropriate, right? I mean, the forgiveness is to be, how powerful is that?
Absolutely. And so you have to seek God. You have to say, God, and talk very plain to him about how you feel about that thing that is bothering you or the thing that happened to you. And to say, God, I need you to change my heart, because I know I can't change the position I'm in. Will you help me? And if it's something that you've done to somebody else, you begin to seek God for the forgiveness that you need for yourself so that you can go back in humility and seek forgiveness from the person that you've wronged, which is very difficult to do, which is why you have to seek God first, because left to ourselves, we wouldn't be able to do this. We wouldn't be capable or competent right?
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. Just take a look, and again, to tie it to something current, take a look at what's happened in the chop zone. Here's people who have said, hey, I want to take this into my own hands. And, within a matter of a short period of time, just a blimp, a bug on the windshield of time, of life, in a very short period of time, look at human beings are destroying each other and completely just destroying each other in such a short period of time. It's amazing to me.
And then I think the important thing is to be able to, if somebody has wronged you, to be able to realize that forgiveness, and in order to be set free from the way that you feel about that, is to realize that forgiveness is primarily an act of will and not emotion. Meaning that forgiveness is a choice. And it's a choice that you may still have scars, you may still be hurt, and nobody's asking you to say that what that person did was okay, or that you become their doormat, or that you dismiss how you feel. No, how you feel is real, and how you feel is important. But forgiveness, and one of the keys to forgiveness, is to realize that it's primarily an act of will and not emotion. And we learned this from Jesus himself, who on the cross, like as he was crucified, like after he was betrayed, beaten, tortured, and nailed to a cross. So, he's not feeling too good. He actually makes the conscious choice. He says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And so we learn from Jesus in that moment that forgiveness is primarily an act of will. I choose to forgive you, and I know that doesn't dismiss how I feel or the wrong that has happened, but I'm choosing to not hold it against you. And the place that we learn that from is God. We learn how to forgive like that from God, from Christ himself, who endured so much on behalf of people and did not hold those things against them nor against us.
In one of our past videos, if anybody's interested in watching them going back, you actually told an incredible story, a personal story, where you got the chance to invoke that. And I think anybody who's interested in hearing a little bit more on this particular topic should go and watch our other video and watch that story of it. It's kind of towards the second half of the video. It's really a great story. And it does a great example of explaining this and exempling how you can, request it from God by prayer, through prayer. And then it's the willful act of saying, I am going to forgive you. And that's the greatest thing that you can do. And it's a very difficult thing to do as human.
It really is.
Right?
Yeah, because we love being right, and we love
being wrong.
Oh,
we hate being wrong. We hate being wrong more than we love being right, I think.
I totally agree. And I will justify myself into sainthood if I had the chance. And I often do try to do this. I will try and get myself off the hook every time. Even when I know that what I've done is wrong, I still find a way to try and justify myself. But listen, the only way to be justified is to be made right by God and Christ. I like the term justified because it's something that we do in like college papers. What do you do with the edges of your paper? You justify them. You bring them in. And so I think we're all on the outs with God when we're sinning. And so what he does is he justifies us. We were out and he brings us in. And the way that he does that is through Jesus. So I can't justify myself. I need him to justify me. Because if it were up to me, I'd always be on the edge. You know what I mean?
Well, and that also, yes, I do, because it also goes back to the other thing. And we mentioned this too. You told another story in the previous video as well about how we, part of this is we have to stop judging others because we are not in a position to be judges. We are not without sin. That's another good story. If anybody wants to dive a little further and actually get into some scripture that Pastor Bob quotes, go check out our previous video too. It's a great story on that as well. But that's the hardest part. I mean, we're all, like you just said, I think we hate being wrong more than we love being right, to the point where you just said you justify yourself into martyrdom. And I think most of us would do the same exact thing, just as a human nature. And so I think that right there is a perfect example of something that we as humans need to work on is, find that way of loving being right and do the right thing, rather than focus on being, wrong, and how much we hate being wrong, and how much we're going to justify everything we do to the end. I mean, most arguments start that way. And, to have that as an internal argument with yourself is a downward spiral. It's just amazing to me how appropriate all of this is to our time.
I appreciate that. And I think the only way that it can happen is by following Jesus. I mean, I since I can't justify myself, I need someone who has justified me, and I need to follow that person. And I think he just has the best way to go. That's what being a disciple means. It means following Jesus.
And it's often messy.
Yeah, just try and put it into practice, and you'll see how messy it is, right?
It is.
Thanks for watching today. It's been a great conversation. We'd love for you to be a part of the conversation, so go ahead and click subscribe. And if you hit the notification bar, it'll let you know when new videos are coming out, which is really important because all of our videos are about new and current events that are happening. If you have any questions, go ahead and contact me via email. It's great to have you a part of the conversation. Thanks for joining us. Bye.